All right, welcome to Swimway Africa YouTube series. It's a pilot series, and on Swimway Africa, we bring you experts, we bring you artisanals and researchers who are doing so much to ensure that a particular group of fauna are protected and conserved as well. My name is Wonne Afronelly. I am from Nigeria, and I'll be your host today. We will be focusing on lakes and Great Lakes in Africa in terms of their social, ecological, and economical values as well. But then I'm not the expert here, so I'll be joined in shortly by someone who has worked tirelessly in Africa. Over 20 years experience, has been coordinating a lot of research, and it just to ensure that scientists in Northern America and Africa have a firm collaboration to ensure that there is proper management and governance, as well as multi-jurisdictional freshwater resources management effective in Africa and Northern America. So I'd like to welcome, it's an honor actually to have Dr. Ted Lawrence on this episode. You're welcome, sir, to the program.
Thank you so much, Wonne. It's great to be here.
Okay, so the first time I saw the profile, I was wondering, what do you mean Great Lakes? Are there lakes in Africa or Northern America that are not regarded as great? Why do we refer to these particular ones? Lakes as Lake Victoria as Great Lakes. Is there a reason why?
There's a few different reasons why. We refer to Great Lakes usually as large bodies of water that are multi-jurisdictional. So they have different entities, borders, and countries that partake in those waters. So when you think about the North American Great Lakes, you see Canada and the US, plus the states and the provinces being part owners, basically, of those lakes. In Africa, we have 7 African Great Lakes, all which meet those criteria, all being binational or multinational.
Okay, because I was going to ask how many of such we have in Africa. So seven is a good number. I thought we're going to have up to 20 or more.
Yeah. Well, there are a lot of really important water resources all throughout Africa, but we're working on those just because they're so visual and so many people rely on them. Yeah.
Okay, so do you work in a particular, because it says you have about 20 years experience researching in Africa and Great Lakes in Africa. So do you work on these particular Great Lakes, just the 7 of them, all 7 of them, a particular one, or do you work in other water bodies?
Well, my background, that's a pretty difficult question. My background is I've worked mostly on Lake Victoria through my research. For the past 15 years. So my focus and my experience is on Lake Victoria, the second largest lake in the world by surface area, and it's bordered by Uganda, Kenya, and Tanzania. However, our work through our organization, which is IISD, the International Institute for Sustainable Development, and ACARE, the African Center for Aquatic Research and Education, we work on all 7 of the African Great Lakes and with the scientists and the experts on all of those lakes.
Oh, brilliant. So could we know some of these Great Lakes apart from Lake Victoria?
Yeah, of course. I know them all. Well, at least I know the names. The 7 African Great Lakes are Lake Albert and Edward, which are bordered by DRC, the Democratic Republic of Congo, and Uganda. There's Lake Kivu, which is also bordered by DRC and Rwanda. There's Lake Tanganyika, Lake Turkana, Lake Victoria, and then Lake Malawi, which is also named Lake Nyasa, depending on if you're in Malawi, Tanzania, or Mozambique.
Interesting. Unfortunately, I didn't hear anyone close to Nigeria. Why is that?
No, you have very important water bodies in Nigeria. We're trying to, as a beginning organization, and with the scientists that we know and the networks we know right now, we're focusing on the Eastern and Southern African Great Lakes. However, we're creating good networks of other scientists and experts like yourself to
Ah,
hopefully expand to other important water bodies, including rivers and other lakes throughout Africa. But we have to start somewhere, so we're starting on the African Great Lakes.
of course. Okay, so basically, we've learned about the 7 Great Lakes of Africa. So why do we? Why is this important to you? You have worked in this for what now, 20 years? Why should anyone pay attention to the Great Lakes? What are the importance of these lakes in terms of their social value, economic and ecological values?
That's a great question. Really, the biggest reason to focus on large water bodies, especially in Africa, is due to the number of people who directly rely on them for their livelihoods, and the economy and food. So the African Great Lakes have millions of people surrounding them for drinking water, for food, and for livelihoods. In Africa also, the biodiversity and the ecology of these lakes are the biggest in the world because of these tropical lakes. So we have the most diverse fish flocks on the African Great Lakes, and they're very important, as you know, through your work, the biodiversity to ensure good, healthy systems that then relate to good, healthy people who rely on them.
Okay. Wow. Okay, so do we have some species of aquatic animals in these Great Lakes that are peculiar to Africa? Because I like to think that, we were on with Dr. Celine some previous episode, and she told us about the African eel. So are there specific species of fish, for example, migratory fish, that is only found in Africa, or do we also have them in Northern America?
That's also a great question. The different latitudes of the North American and African Great Lakes make them have very different fish species. So in North America, there are many fewer fish species than in the African Great Lakes. Now, I'm not a biologist, but I do know that the diverse fish on the African Great Lakes include the haplochromines, or the cichlids, that are the really colorful fish, with hundreds, actually thousands of different species
Oh,
that are immensely colorful. They fill all kinds of different niches. Yeah, they're just very important for the ecosystem. When you look at Lake Victoria, you do have a unique system there where a lot of the cichlids, the haplochromines, have been wiped out by the non-native Nile perch, which can get up to 6 feet long and 200 pounds. So just enormous fish. And those are important. Although destructive to the native habitats, they're very important for the economy and for food security in the region. So there's good and bad there. But yeah, there's I think most of the fish in the African Great Lakes, they're different, at least from many of the other larger water systems, especially in the Northern Hemisphere.
okay. So you mentioned colorful, and then I got thinking, it reminded me about ornamental fishes and the aquarium and ecotourism. So in the course of your research, have you delved into ecotourism, for example? Are there some of these lakes that serve as tourism attraction sites that bring, foreigners to that particular location, and probably increases the revenue of the community people?
Yeah, it's actually a very good argument, but not the only argument for preserving and protecting our water resources, especially in Africa. When you have beautiful, colorful, diverse fishes and animals, as you see on land-based tourism, you have people come to your countries and to those areas to look at those fishes. And the more we degrade those, the more we make them more homogenous, the less value they have in terms of tourism. And yeah, you bring money and interest to these areas when you have these wonderful, diverse, beautiful fishes.
Interesting. Okay, so you are the senior policy advisor for the International Institute for Sustainable Development. So
Mhm.
could you tell us what policy is and how does it help with the work that you do?
Sure. Policy and governance are the ways that we create rules and processes to interact with each other and our natural resources. So, in my capacity as the senior policy advisor with IISD, is to work with other good policy advisors and scientists to make sure that we have good information. So what we do is we collect good scientific information from on the ground scientists, people who really know the lakes and know the water and collect data. And we work with them to collect all the comprehensive information so we can make good decisions and good processes to make sure that our waters stay clean and healthy and diverse, not only for the sake of the lake, the ecology and the fishes, but for the people who rely on them. So really, we want to make the lakes healthy for everyone, um, so we can use them for the benefit of the millions of people that rely on them.
Okay, so I want to believe that you have come up with, in the course of your research with your team, there has been new policies from when you started 20 years ago, possibly. Is there some positive influence when we talk about African Great Lakes? Are there problems that you have solved with these new policies? If you could share one or two with us.
Oh, that's a great question. What have we solved? Well, globally, working on fisheries and freshwater, I think over the past 20 years, which is a fairly short time span for these waters, um, I think there are a lot of different successes. I can name many from North America where we've had different policies of cleaning up our waters, making sure that fish are healthy, programs to try and stop invasive species. And on Africa, we're in the African Great Lakes, we're still working on that quite a bit. In Lake Victoria, we have had a process of trying to mitigate the water hyacinth, which is an invasive plant that chokes out fish habitat. And I know that Uganda, Kenya, and Tanzania have had processes by which they've collected data on how harmful those species are, and then have created processes by getting as much of that invasive plant out as possible. So that's one of the better policy and management programs that we've had. But I think there are a lot more, and I wish I had some of my scientific experts with me now from Lake Victoria and the other lakes to help. Maybe we'll get them on a different episode.
Okay. All right, let's look at the other platform, the African Center for Aquatic Research and Education,
Mhm.
ACARE. What exactly do you do there? Could you tell us about your level of research, talk about, say, the education, or if you do advocacy as well, and then what you do with management of lakes?
Sure. So going back to the question about what is policy, we have to create policy and management decisions with good information. So what ACARE does is we have decided to strengthen science, to strengthen information. And so what we do as an organization is we get all of the experts, the on the ground scientific experts around Africa, and we try and network them with the other freshwater and large lake experts globally. So North America, Europe, um, all around. And our biggest effort is to get together and determine what are the biggest priorities on the African Great Lakes, how to address them, and how to make good science. So we do that through a lot of different meetings, which is not the most exciting thing to do, but very essential to get together. And remember, we were talking about multi-jurisdictional and binational. So oftentimes we work just in our own country on our own water. And our process is to make sure that we're all working together on one water body instead of just individually on our countries. That way, we have a better understanding of what's happening in the entire lake. We can collect that information, and then when we have enough information, we know what's right to do, or we have a good feeling of what the best policies and management is. We can go to the policymakers and the governments and say, this is what we need to do to make these lakes better and healthier for everyone. So,
Okay, so how do you relay this information to the people? How do you communicate? How do you educate them on your findings? And then if the government, decides to adopt your policies, how do you ensure that the people, align with those policies and use them as a guide?
well, we have a lot of different partners involved in our efforts. So our organization specifically works on strengthening the science, and then we help guide policymakers and decision makers on what those decisions should be. And then some of our organizations that are on the ground, so there are many, but we have a lot of advocacy groups. The Lake Victoria Fisheries Organization is one, the Lake Tanganyika Authority, and a lot of research organizations that actually go into the field and talk with the people who are working on the ground, who are relying on the fisheries specifically. So we don't specifically go into the communities as ACARE, the group, but we work with the organizations who do so.
So you have all your networks scattered around all the countries that these lakes pass through.
Yep, that's right. So there's 10 riparian countries, or the countries that border these lakes, and it goes from Burundi, the Democratic Republic of Congo, Ethiopia, Kenya, Malawi, Mozambique, Rwanda, Tanzania, Uganda, and Zambia. In each of those countries, we have members of universities, research institutes, departments of fisheries, all around these lakes. One of the things that we're trying to do through all of these groups is make sure that, one, we have enough representation of women. So we've started the African Women in Science program to make sure we have the perspective of bright, smart women working on the African Great Lakes, and of course to bolster the entire scientific network. And then the other is that we're trying to, we're creating right now an education and training program throughout the region, so that instead of students or experts trying to find education and training, that they can come to us and we can craft a network and a process by which they can get the education they need and want to help address the large lakes problems that we face.
So you accept students from just any country in Africa?
Well, right now we're building the network, but anybody who would be interested in working on freshwater and large lakes, yes, we would help try and get them the education they want to get. That's right.
Okay. That's a brilliant one, because I'm interested as well.
Oh, good. Well, you're on the top of our list then.
Oh, thank you. Okay, so it's I wouldn't say overwhelming, because you have the experience and expertise, so it comes okay for you, but it sounds really huge what you're doing across all of these African countries and 7 Great Lakes in Africa. I just learned Lake Albert, Lake Edward, Lake Kivu, Tanganyika, Malawi. I think I missed one.
Victoria and Turkana. That was
Victoria.
good.
Okay.
And Lake Turkana is interesting. It's the furthest north one. It's in Kenya and Ethiopia, and it's in a really, really dry region. Okay. And I've not been there yet, but I hope to go soon.
Ah, okay, interesting. It's actually beautiful to have someone not from the continent doing so much in the African continent, and I want to say a huge thank you. But then again, what can I do? What can anyone listening? I mean, we've learned there are 7 Great Lakes in Africa. So what can we do to support what you're doing and ensure that these lakes are conserved, preserved, and protected?
Well, one of the best things to do is to keep up to date on what we're doing, to spread the word both through social media and any other means that you have. Help support what we're doing, not only through just voicing the support to politicians and to other people, the importance of fresh water, but the importance of this type of work. We do have to focus business, and making money is important, but if we harm our natural resources, we won't have anything to stand on. So we all need to work together to make sure that the fresh water and our other natural resources are protected for our benefit.
Mm. Thank you so much. Interesting. So if you are now, I've been interacting with Dr. Ted Lawrence, who happens to be the Senior Policy Advisor for International Institute for Sustainable Development, as well as the Executive Director of the African Center for Aquatic Research and Education. And he's taught us so much. 7 Great Lakes in Africa. You want to protect them, you want to conserve them, and you want to preserve these natural resources that God has blessed us with. And so I want to say thank you, Dr. Ted, for your time and your expertise and sharing your wealth of knowledge with us. Thank you
It's
so
my
much.
pleasure. Yeah, thank you so much for having me on.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.